So how does Batman deal with a pandemic? That was the question that DC Comics sought to answer in 1996 in the storyline called Batman Contagion, a 12-chapter story that takes a look at what happens when Batman has to fight an enemy that he can't punch. Batman Contagion is the first crossover across all the Batman titles since Batman Troika in 1994. Troika was the final storyline after Nightfall, Nightquest, Night's End, and Prodigal. 2 years worth of crossovers that forced people to grab all the Batman comics to understand the stories. When Troika was over, DC Comics decided to take a break from the crossovers to allow readers to enjoy each Batman title separately. However, this break lasted only for 1995, because as soon as 1996 began, Batman Contagion hit the shelves. The idea behind Contagion was to put Batman in a situation where he would be completely helpless, and what better way to do that than unleashing a lethal disease with no cure in Gotham. This idea was first used in the 1995 Elseworlds Batman, Brotherhood of the Bat, a story that is set many years in the future, where a deadly disease has spread across the world, decimating more than half of the global population. Batman himself died from the disease, and all hope was lost. The topic of deadly plagues was quite novel in the early 90s. In 1994, author Richard Preston released a book called The Hot Zone, which inspired both the movie Outbreak as well as Batman Brotherhood of the Bat, both of them released in 1995. Fast forward to 1996, and the Batman editorial team at DC Comics decided to create an entire storyline in the main canon continuity, where a deadly plague spreads in Gotham, and Batman has to stop it. Recently, people became interested in this 1986 story because of the COVID pandemic, as many of the events of Contagion are dark mirrors of what happened in the real world during that awful time. So now let's take a look at Batman Contagion to find out exactly how Batman would have dealt with a pandemic. And in case you haven't read the story, this is your last warning for spoilers ahead. Contagion begins with a foreboding footage of a man who has been infected with a virus known as the Apocalypse Plague. This man's body has been deformed, and tears of blood fall from his eyes as he destroys everything and everyone in a secret laboratory of the Order of Saint Dumas, the place where the footage comes from. Azrael shows this footage to Batman, and he warns him that a person carrying this virus is headed towards Gotham City. The last time Azrael was featured in any significant way on a Batman story was way back in Nightfall. Ever since then, Azrael remained as an outcast, traveling the world and learning about his origin with the Order of Saint Dumas. Now, finally, he is back in Gotham, and Contagion is the first time that Azrael works as an official member of the Batman family. Following Azrael's ominous warning, Batman investigates the plague, infiltrating in a military facility where they are experimenting with the virus. Inside, Batman comes across a victim of the virus called Ebola Gulf A, better known as the Clench. The victim tells Batman how the virus works and how anybody infected has only 48 hours to live before they suffer a terrible and agonizing and horrible death. Just as Batman becomes aware of how dire the situation is, the infected person carrying the virus has landed in Gotham. He is a wealthy man who lives inside Babylon Towers, a gated community in the middle of Gotham, built by the most wealthy people of the city. Babylon Towers is a place that did not exist until Contagion, a place created only to make this story work and with no other purpose. The man who arrives to Babylon Towers infected with the virus knows about the plague, and he also knows that a secret organization is planning to unleash the virus in Gotham. Just how exactly does he know all of that information is never cleared up, but he was clearly not aware of the complete plan, because he didn't know that he had been infected. The rich people of Babylon Towers decide to lock up the place and let Gotham City die of the plague. This plot point is very reminiscent of the Edgar Allan Poe story called The Mask of the Red Death, where the rich people of a town celebrate inside a castle while the people outside die of a plague. In Babylon Towers, they lock themselves in with the Clench, and all of them are doomed to die, just like in the Allan Poe story. but not before infecting some of their employees, who then go out into the city and spread the virus across Gotham. Batman and Robin manage to track down Patient Zero to Babylon Towers, where they confirm that the worst has happened. The virus is already in Gotham. The city's only hope is to find one man, the only survivor of the virus in an outbreak that happened in Greenland. A race against time to find this survivor begins, and Batman sends Robin to Greenland, where he comes across Catwoman, who has been offered $5 million by the rich Babylonians to find this survivor. They also have to confront Tracker, a mercenary hired by the Penguin to also find this survivor. And to make things even more complicated, Batman sends Azrael to help Robin. Although all this business about the survivor takes us away from the virus and from Gotham, the great thing about it is that we get to see the first appearance of Catwoman's snow catsuit, which she uses for camouflage and to stay warm in cold environments. The Catwoman character design of the 90s was not only sexy, but her alternate costumes were imaginative, interesting, and honestly quite fun. While Robin and the rest of the characters raced to find this survivor, the Clench started taking lives in Gotham. The rate at which the virus spread and the gruesome effects on the general population are incredibly accurate. Contagion does a really good job of capturing the way that a deadly virus is transmitted, as reading the story can definitely bring back memories of 2020, when COVID started to spread like wildfire and the entire world went into lockdown. And what's crazy to me is that in 1986 we hadn't yet experienced a pandemic like that in modern times, which is why Contagion feels like an eerily prophetic story. The news about the disease spread fast, and Gotham City becomes quarantined and shut off from the rest of the country. This is the first time the idea of shutting Gotham is used, an idea that will be perfected a few years later, during No Man's Land. Gotham City is totally helpless. There is a new police commissioner who is completely incompetent. James Gordon had been removed as police commissioner by the current mayor of Gotham, Armand Kroll, with whom Gordon had a falling out, and Kroll had a grudge against Gordon. With Kroll and his puppet commissioner in the lead, the city doesn't have any good leaders, and the plague starts killing hundreds of people. Meanwhile, Robin and the others finally locate the survivor, but the man is killed by a group of unknown mercenaries. Robin manages to take a sample of his blood that he brings back to Gotham so that Batman can develop a cure. They are not sure if the cure is going to work, and Batman decides to test it with the people inside Babylon Towers. Batman himself cannot go inside the place because he would become infected, and instead he decides to recruit the assistance of the only person in Gotham who is immune to the virus, Poison Ivy. Now, this is one of the major issues I have with Contagion, because instead of using any sort of protective gear or equipment to go inside the towers, Batman decides to ask the help of a supercriminal. Not really the most logical course of action. Thousands of people get sick and die from being exposed to the virus, and nobody ever even brings up the idea of wearing a mask or any sort of protective gear. That's perhaps the biggest flaw of this fictional pandemic. For instance, when Batman and Gordon go inside the towers to stop Ivy from scamming the rich bastards with a cure that doesn't really work, they go without any sort of protection into literally ground zero of the outbreak. And they come out of it completely unscathed, so it's obvious that the virus was not as contagious as they made it up to be, although it was definitely lethal. Now, out of all the vigilantes and heroes of Gotham, the only one that was smart enough to actually protect herself from the plague was the Huntress. In Contagion, the Huntress not only wears a mask that protects her from any airborne viruses, but she also upgrades her entire outfit. Her original outfit left much of her skin exposed, and because she wanted to avoid being exposed to the virus, she starts wearing a completely black outfit. This new character design for the Huntress was one of the good things to come out of Contagion. The other one was the long-awaited reunion of James Gordon and Batman. Ever since Nightfall, Gordon had lost his faith and trust in the Dark Knight, and it wasn't until they worked together during this dire situation that they actually patched their differences and become friends again. In fact, Contagion is the first time that all of the members of the Batman family, including Batman, Robin, Alfred, Nightwing, Oracle, Azrael, Catwoman, and the Huntress work together to stop an unstoppable enemy, alongside the good members of the GCPD, such as Gordon, Montoya, and Bullock. The story even features a very rare appearance of Hitman, a forgotten DC character of the 90s. All the heroes were forced to work together because Gotham City started to get completely out of hand. Hundreds of people started rioting in the streets, destroying, looting, and burning Babylon towers to the ground. Mass hysteria was taking over as the virus threatened to end all life in Gotham. And it was during one of these riots that Robin became infected with the virus when someone spat in his face. This was DC's way to raise the stakes, as although the virus was already a dangerous threat, none of the major characters were actually getting infected. Among the lesser characters that got the virus were Renee Montoya's boyfriend and the Mayor of Gotham. So it wasn't until Robin became infected that things started to feel very serious. Tim Drake became a victim of the clench, and he was quickly taken to the Batcave, where Alfred took care of him. This is where Contagion actually works. The story conveys the unquestionable feelings of desperation, showing how hopeless and helpless the characters feel in the face of something that they can't fight. The sense of doom and urgency that happens as the heroes try to stop an unstoppable force, creating a momentum that is very much like what the world actually experienced during the real pandemic. Contagion presents us the dreadful situation and doesn't pull back any punches, showing us the ugly and devastating side of a pandemic. The suffering of the people and the hospitals being overwhelmed are very realistic scenarios, while the situation with Alfred taking care of Tim, knowing that the boy is on his last moments, create some of the most human and touching moments of the storyline. Moments that are very realistic for those of us who experienced that kind of loss during the pandemic. With Robin sick, it was really a matter of time before Contagion was wrapped up. Catwoman and Azrael went on a quest to find two other possible survivors, but their efforts were in vain. The first survivor killed himself, thinking he was immortal, and by the time Catwoman arrived to Gotham with the third survivor, Batman tells her that there is no way to develop a cure from a survivor's blood. All hope really seemed to be lost, until out of nowhere, Azrael found the formula for a cure in one of the ancient books of the Order of Saint Dumas. And so the cure was delivered and Gotham City was saved. Tim Drake made a full recovery, and in the aftermath of Contagion, he teamed up with Catwoman once again. This ending is definitely rushed. DC Comics clearly didn't want to drag this story for another month, so they decided to end it quickly, which doesn't really work because the cure for such a dangerous virus comes way too easy and solves all the problems way too fast. Though the ending of Contagion was indeed a bit too convenient, the storyline did leave some changes in the Batman mythos. For instance, Gordon was reinstated as police commissioner by the new mayor of Gotham, Marion Grange, who takes over the job as a result of the disaster from the previous administration. Azrael also becomes a permanent member of the Batman family, and Huntress debuts her new outfit. So how does Batman deal with a pandemic? After reading Contagion, the answer is quite simple. He doesn't. If there is any important lesson from Contagion, is that Batman would be completely helpless against a deadly situation such as a highly contagious disease. Batman is woefully unprepared to deal with something this big, which is part of the reason why people like this story. There are not many Batman stories where he is unable to overcome the obstacles. And that's what's great about this era in the Batman comics, where they put Batman in impossible situations in order to show his humanity, his shortcomings, but most importantly, his absolute determination to do anything that he can to make a difference and to help his city as best as he can. Now, there is only just one question that is not answered in Contagion, and that is, who created the Apocalypse Plague? A question that will be answered in the following crossover called Batman Legacy, the sequel to Contagion. We are going to be checking out Legacy in the next video, and if you want to support me and help me make more videos like this one, you can join my Patreon, where you will get your name on the credits of each video, early access, and exclusive content. As always, I want to thank all of my Patreons for sponsoring this video, and to anyone who is new to the channel, welcome aboard! So, what do you think about Contagion? What was your first memory of the story? Let me know down in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe. for more Batman videos.